Hey there, I am back for the last part of chapter 18. Hope you're all having a good day, and let's go ahead and dive on in. The page numbers in your book that I'm coming to you from start on 408 and continue on a little bit from there. So this will be our last little bit of notes for chapter 18. We will have some sort of quiz type thing. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but it'll look a little bit different than normal. But just know that next week at some point, probably somewhere around Tuesday, I'll put a link to a little quiz in Google Classroom. Just kind of highlighting some of the main things from this chapter. So again, if you have questions, concerns, anything you need to talk to me about, feel free to reach out via email or in Google Classroom. I am here to help you through this process of remote learning. Just know that your teachers here do miss you. It's awfully quiet around here without y'all coming in during second and third period. So let me go ahead and share my screen for this last little bit of notes. All right, here we go. So, talking about socialism in the Industrial Revolution era. Chapter 18, notes number 3. So our primary objectives here are to talk about the 4 major types of socialism that were coming out during this 19th century time, briefly talk about kind of what they believed, and then wrapping things up with the response of Christians in this time period. So, quick little definition. In your book, it talks about this on 408, 409, but a basic definition here is government ownership of a means of production and distribution of goods for the presumed welfare of society. Okay, so basic definition of socialism there. A lot of people think of socialism as more of kind of an economic term or just a government thing, but it's definitely kind of a worldview that can impact every area of a person's life. So let's look at a couple things. Sometimes socialism can reject an individual's responsibility and emphasize the group rather than the individual, limiting the individual choice. And growing up here in the United States, I'm definitely someone who has learned to appreciate individual choice. Socialism can at times replace individualism with collectivism, so rule by the group. A little different than what most of us have grown up with. All right, so some different types. We're going to look at 4 different types. So the first type your book talks about is utopian socialism. And this was kind of linked to the French Enlightenment and a lot of the other 18th century philosophies. These utopian socialists basically believed that if the iniquities in society could be abolished, that man's natural goodness could be perfected. So these socialists believe that the profit motive of capitalism was basically the source of evil, and that it stimulated greed and hatred. And so they wanted to get away from this social environment of greed and hatred and kind of move to what they considered would be proper surroundings with a good education to solve a lot of these problems. So there's a couple different individuals that get involved in this idea of utopian socialism. One of them was named Robert Owen. He tried 2 different times to set up utopian communities. He's tried to set up one in New Harmony, Indiana. And yeah, anyway, both of the times he tried this, they failed and did not last for very long. He learned that people were not as unselfish as he thought they could be, and turned out to be a little bit unreasonable. All right, so that's type number 1. Type number 2 you've probably heard of with Karl Marx and this idea of Marxism, calling for the workers of the world to unite to oppose capitalism. And as they did that, they could progress to a higher state of development until man reached this perfect society where everyone is equal and gladly shares the fruit of their labor with others, ultimately reaching this level of communism. And so that was kind of his goal in a lot of what he wrote. The book goes into quite a bit of detail on 409 and 410, talking about the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and giving you some examples of some communist countries today. So again, 410 would be a great place to look if you want to learn a little bit more on that type. Type number 3 is Fabian socialism, which I honestly hadn't really heard of too much until I started teaching this class 7 years ago. But this type of socialism really wanted to achieve a socialist society without a big revolution. So basically, instead of attacking it directly, they would gradually undermine capitalism and that style of economy, and basically kind of create their own happy place, okay, throughout Europe and America. So that was more of a gradual thing. The graphic down there you can see from 1886, 1887 of the Fabian Society. All right, let's move to the fourth one. So the fourth type that your book talks about on 411 is Christian socialism. This is kind of made up of a group of theological liberals who believe that Christianity and capitalism were incompatible. So they wanted to basically live according to kind of their own ideas here with this earthly millennium where peace and justice could reign. They tried to portray this brand of socialism in a positive manner. And yeah, it's a wee bit confusing as you read through this, but that was the fourth type. And so basically kind of creating their own kingdom in a way of peace and justice and equality right here on earth. So that's the fourth type. Let's then move to what some Christians were doing during this time period to help those around them. Oftentimes Christians were many of the first to respond to the needs of society, helping to improve living conditions of the poor, trying to reduce crime, trying to help kids and just make the world a little bit of a better place. So a couple of these key people: Robert Raikes began a Sunday school in England for poor, illiterate, working class kids who didn't go to school during the weekdays but could meet on a Sunday. So they started calling that Sunday school. George Mueller founded many different orphanages in England. He was the devoted Christian. There are stories in his biography about how they would not have food at the orphanage, and he would go to bed that night just praying to God that somehow he would take care of them, and he would wake up the next morning and go open his door, and there would be a basket of food right there on the steps to feed the kids that were in his orphanage. So a man of great faith, of great action, pretty interesting guy. The next gentleman your book talks about is George Williams, who helped start London's YMCA, which stands for the Young Men's Christian Association. The purpose of the organization was to minister to the men who worked in the city and win them to Christ. So it started with a big spiritual intention. Maybe looks a little bit different today, but that was George Williams. Another gentleman was William Booth, who started the Salvation Army, another ministry that has had a worldwide impact. He began working in the London slums, preaching the gospel and trying to help meet the physical needs of the people around him. And when I think of the Salvation Army, I think of the people at Christmas who are out there ringing the bell with their their red kettle, collecting money and helping the poor around us. The last person your book talks about is Dwight L. Moody, who was an evangelist who won many people to Christ. He started out as a shoe salesman, but began traveling around the country with his song leader, and they would have these large services where people could come and hear a message of hope and turn their lives around. So there's a cool quote down here on the slide that says, "Faith ends where worry begins, and worry ends where faith begins," from George Mueller. So our world definitely needs some hope right about now, and hopefully we are examples to the world around us. Alrighty. So final thought, last slide for today. Moody and Sankey, that was his song leader, believed that conditions in society would improve only when those who live in that society have experienced a true conversion and given their heart to Jesus. So comes down to an issue of the heart. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my slides here and wrap things up for today. So again, keep checking Google Classroom. You should be finishing up your scripts for the Industrial Revolution skits that we talked about the last time we were in class together. So be working with your group to get those completed. Hopefully sometime next week, I'm thinking maybe Wednesday, I can schedule a Zoom meeting for both second and third period. And we can hop on there, and groups that would like to share their scripts would be able to do that. So anyway, hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.